Myself, Dr. Rani, Assistant Professor, IIMT College of Law. Today, we will discuss on the topic India's development strategy. First is economic planning and five-year plan. Economic planning is the making of major economic decisions and what and how is to be produced and whom it is to be allocated by the conscious decision of a determinate authority on the basis of a comprehensive survey of the economic system as a whole. It means economic planning is the making of the major economic decisions. The economic planner makes such type of planning in which they decide how to produce and uh, who is to be allocated and conscious decisions uh, are to be made on the basis of the comprehensive survey. In an economy like India, the basic socio-economic problems like poverty, unemployment, stagnation in agricultural and industrial production, and inequality in the distribution of income and wealth uh, can hardly be shouted within the framework of an unplanned economy. Thus, economic planning is required to remove these basic maladies. We can say that in our economy in India, there are so many problems like poverty, unemployment, and stagnation in the agriculture and the industrial sector. So the people have to face many problems due to that inequality in the distribution of income and wealth. To remove all these maladies, uh, the government has made many planning, economic planning, so that our country can grow rapidly. We can identify the following characteristic features of economic planning: fixation of definite socio-economic targets and prudent efforts to achieve these targets within a given time period, existence of a central planning authority, and complete knowledge about the economic resources of the country, and efficient utilization of limited resources to get maximum output and welfare. So, objectives of economic planning in India. Planning without an objective is like a driving without any destination. There are generally two sets of objectives for planning, namely the short-term objectives and the long-term objectives. While the short-term objectives vary from plan to plan depending on the uh, immediate problem faced by the economy. And the process of planning is uh, inspired by certain long-term objectives. In case of one five-year plan, the long-term objectives are a high rate of growth with a view to improvement in standard of living and economic self-reliance and social justice and modernization of the economy. So objective can be divided into two parts, short-term objectives and the long-term objectives. In short-term objective, we can uh, include the small plannings of the government, and the long-term objective we can include the 5 years plans and high rate of growth with a view to improvement the standard of living and economic self-reliance and social justice and mobilization of the economy. High rate of growth. All the Indian 5-year plans have given primary importance to higher growth of real national income. And during the British rule, Indian economy was stagnant and the people were living in a state of adjust poverty. So during the British rule, the Indian economy was very weak and the people was very poor and the Britishers exploited the economy both through foreign trade and colonial administration. While the European industries flourished, the Indian economy was caught in a vicious circle of poverty. While the other Britishers and European industries flourished at the time, and the Indian economy was in a critical situation. The perceived The pervasive poverty and misery were the most important problem that has to be tackled through 5-year plan. Next is economic self-reliance. Self-reliance means to stand on one's own legs. In the Indian context, it implies that dependence on foreign and should be as minimum as possible. At the beginning of planning, we had to import food grains from USA to meet our domestic demand. Similarly, for accelerating the process of industrialization, we had to import capital goods in the form of heavy machinery and technical know-how. In the beginning of the planning, we had to import food grains from USA to fulfill our basic desire, and we had to import capital goods in the form of heavy machinery and technical know-how. For improving infrastructure facilities like roads, railways, power, we had to depend on foreign aid to raise the rate of our investment. Next, social justice. Social justice means to equally distribute the wealth and income of the country among different sections of the society. In India, we find that a large number of people are poor, while few lead a luxurious life. Therefore, another objective of development is to ensure social justice and to take care of the poor and weaker sections of the society. The 5-year plans have highlighted four aspects of social justice. They are application of domestic principles in the political structure of the country. Next is establishment of social and economic equity and removed of regional disparity and putting an end to the process of centralization of economic power and efforts to raise the condition of backward and depressed classes. Next is mobilization of the economy. Before independence, our country was backward and feudal in character. After attainment of independence, the planners and policy makers tried to modernize the economy by changing the institutional setup of the country. Before the independence, our planning was, was very backward, and many policy makers and planners tried to modernize the economy by changing the institutional setup of the economy of our country. Modernization aims at improving the standard of living of the people by adopting a better scientific technique of production, by replacing the traditional backward ideas by logical reasoning and bringing about changes in the rural structure and institutions. The aim of the modernization is to improve in the condition of the people, in the living standard of the people, to remove their traditional backwardness, to use the modern techniques and technology of production so that their style of living may be changed and the condition of the rural areas may be improved. Next is economic stability. Economic stability means to control inflation and unemployment. After the second plan, the price level started increasing from a long period of time, and therefore the planners have tried to stabilize the economy, controlling the rising trend of the uh, price level. However, the primary decision has been far from satisfactory. Thus, the broad objective of the Indian plans has been a non-inflationary, self-reliant growth with social justice. Next is core target of the 12th five-year plan, 2012 to 17, economic growth. The real GDP growth at that time was 8% and agriculture growth at 4%, manufacturing growth at 10% and each state must attain higher growth rate than the rate achieved during 11th plan. Next is poverty and unemployment. Poverty rate to be reduced by 10% than the rate of the end of the 11th plan and 5 crore new work opportunities and skill certification in non-farm sector. Education. Mean years of schooling is increased to 7 years and 20 lakh seats for each age bracket in higher education and uh, gender gap and social gap in school enrollment. Next is health. Reduce IMR to 25, MMR to 1, increase child sex ratio to 950 and reduce total fertility rate equal to 2 ratio 1 and reduce under nutrition of children in age group zero point 0.3 to half of NFHS 3 level. Next is infrastructure. Investment in infrastructure at 9% of GDP, gross irrigated area 103 million hectares from 90 million hectares, electricity to all villages, reduce AT&C losses by 20% and connect villagers with all weather roads and national and state highways to a minimum of 2 lane standard and complete eastern and western dedicated freight corridors and rural destiny to 70% and 40 liters per capita per day during drinking water to 50% of rural population and uh, Nirmal Gram status to 50% of all Gram Panchayat. Next is environment and stability. Increase green cover by 1 million hectare every year and 30,000 megawatt renewable energy during 5-year period and emission intensity of GDP to be reduced to 20 to 25% of 2005 levels by 2020. Next is failure 5-year plans in India. What are the reasons of the failures of 5-year plans in India? They are as rise in prices, increase in unemployment, slow growth in production sector, inequality in distribution of income and wealth, inefficient administration, lack of strong uh, foundation, and extra ambitious, no increase in standard of living. So these are the causes of the failures of the 5 years plans in India. Next is priorities between agriculture and industry. In the past, it was believed that to move in the direction of development, India has to work on building agriculture and production of raw materials. Therefore, a lot of economics has given priority to significance on the following grounds. Agriculture provides food grains to millions of the people in India, and prosperous agriculture would provide investable funds. Prosperous agriculture would mean increasing employment opportunities to the country's population. An agriculture sector would also help the process of economic development by helping the extension of the territory sector of the economy. A prosperous agriculture sector would result in increasing agricultural surplus which can be exported. It is the agriculture sector that provides the raw material needed by the industry. The agriculture sector can provide labor force to industrialization from reduced unemployment. Through the agriculture sector, we get the raw material for the industries. We get all the food grains from the development of the agriculture sector. Agriculture sector play a very important role in the growth of our economy. Now, importance of technology in economic growth. Technology play a very important role in economic growth of an economy as it helps in raising the productive capacity of the available factors of production. This is in turn raises the standard of living of the people. Technological progress along the capital formation contributes to the process of the country and in increasing output. So technology leads to the decision of labor and that very skilled people are provided with jobs and better salaries that lead to higher standard of living. The importance of the technology in the economic growth, technology plays a very important role in our country as it increases the standard of living as well as if a person are, uh, have the skills of the know and the knowledge of the technology, then the production may be increased very rapidly, and a person, a skilled person, an educated person can get the better opportunities of the job, and it will the cause of the higher standard of the living. Next is, however, some economists argue that first priority should be given to the industry to attain a socialist pattern on the following grounds. Modern factory industries are the greatest providers for employment opportunities to the working force in a country, and the industries produce goods on a very large scale and therefore relatively cheap with low cost of production. And industrialization has helped vast masses of people to consume various types of goods help raise their standard of living and material welfare. So, the raw material we get from the agriculture for the fulfillment of the industries, and the industries produce goods on a very large scale and therefore relatively cheap, and their cost of the production will be cheap. Industrialization can earn enough foreign exchange through exports to pay for the imports. And defense of a country is strength with the modern industries. Industrialization involve and contributes to skill formation, and industrialization results in increasing demand for raw materials produced in the agriculture sector of the economy. We may conclude that there is absolutely no stagnation between agriculture and industry, and it can be said without a doubt that the development and progress in one helps the development and progress in the other. In India, agriculture, including irrigation and power, was given the highest priority, followed by transport and communication, social services, and industry came in the end. Concept of technology. Technology may be defined as the expertise, equipment, and procedures used by the organizations to transform resource input into output. Technology generally considers product design, production, techniques, quality assurance measures, human resource development, and management systems. Need for technology. A specific level of technological advancement is highly desirable to assure economic growth. It improves productivity of labor, capital, and other factors of production. It also helps in creation of skill, new means and methods of production, new use of raw materials, and the widespread use of machinery. Choice of technology. Choice of technology is the most important decision from the accelerating development point of view. So entrepreneurs should take this decision very seriously and carefully. If an entrepreneur has committed mistakes in selections of technology, they only result in the failure of planning as well as lack of the confidence towards planning. So, accelerating price of economy and enterprise uh, concerned is directly related with the choice of the technology. Types of technologies are there are two types of technology: labor intensive techniques and capital intensive techniques. Labor intensive technique it uses comparatively larger amount of labor and small dose of capital. In those techniques, a large amount of labor is combined with a smaller amount of capital. Thus, it relied more on labor input and less on capital input. In this way, labor-intensive technique depends more on the labor factor as compared to the capital factor. It also encourages the manpower skill as well as a capital formation. Advantages in labor intensive technology. It increases employment opportunities, effective utilization of capital, decentralized production system, distribution of income, higher level of production, and creation of economic and social environment saving of foreign exchange. Limitations of the labor intensive techniques, there are static and of short term in nature. They provide scope for low rate of capital formation, and they fail to improve the skill of manpower. Now, capital intensive technique. Capital intensive technique may be defined as a technique in which comparatively larger amount of capital is used but a small number of labor. Under this technique, amount of capital required as per the production is large in comparison to labor-intensive technique. It uses more volume of input of capital rather than the input of labor. It means in capital-intensive technique, the more use of capital is there, the less use of the labor. Thus, capital-intensive technique prefer more unit of capital and less labor. Advantages of capital intensive technique: rapid economic development, latest production system, higher level of production, improvement in standard of living, uh, and strategic effect, creation of economic and social empowerment, and increase in employment opportunity. The limitations of the capital intensive technique: it exploits labor workforce as well as consumers. It divides society into two parts, yeah, have and have not, rich and poor, and it avoids balanced regional development. It includes wasteful use of capital resources. Types of production technology: unit and small batch technology, and mass production and large batch technology. So it is a type of technology in which produce are produced to customer specification to produce in small quantities by skilled technology. And mass production large batch technology refers to a type technology in which the productions are made at a large quantity, offer as assembly line, and we can we can use it Maruti Udyog Limited and many other companies to produce automobiles. Thank you.